Bashir thinks finale and toddies are a good cure for fake coughs. The Pennington School in New Zealand offered Jake a writing fellowship. And for a moment there, Sisko thought Ducat was put in charge of the Cardassian ministry, the reputation of Bajoran fairy tales. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule. Cirroc, Lofton.
It was kind of a tongue twister. You did pretty well on that one.
Yeah, I was second guessing myself. I was like, am I even going to be able to say this? Right in the middle of it.
I didn't interrupt you. You did it. You had it.
Today we are reviewing Deep Space Nine Season 3, Episode 22, Explorers, directed by Cliff Bole, written by Renee Echevarria, and a story by Hilary Bader, no relation to Supreme Court Judge. That's a Ruth Bader Ginsburg reference.
All
right. All downhill from here. I will also say that I had the biggest laugh in this episode so far in all three seasons. I can think of only one other time that I maybe laughed as hard or close to it, but this was the biggest laugh I had. Really? We'll talk about that. I mean, stay tuned for that. Am I right? We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Very quickly, if you'd like to support our hilarious and fun and star-studded show, feel free to go to patreon.com/the7th-rule and become a part of our team. And if you want a free way to, a free method to support us, just please be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, share it with your friends, follow us on Twitter, do all that kind of stuff. It's free and it means the world to us. And with that, let's talk about this hidden gem of an episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great episode. Really a turning point, at least for my character.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed this episode. One of the things that popped out at me was my age. I felt like I'm at a point where I'm getting older and I'm losing the childhood Jake, going into like the young man Jake.
Right. Yeah, I noticed the same thing. That like just watching this episode, it felt like, I did make a note of it that it felt like this was the last time we see you as a child. Like you just looked like you were just flipping from child to young man, just right there in that episode. That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. And then, so I don't know how they were able to time it like that, but it times well with the storyline of the episode. And
you're right. Yeah.
This whole father-son bonding moment, it's kind of like Jake having to pivot from, he's pivoting into having his own identity, his own life, right? His girlfriend's coming in, he's writing without anybody knowing. So he's had his own like ideas of what he wants to do without really consulting with anybody. So he's starting to find his own identity, starting to find himself, whether with relations to dating, whether it comes to like profession, career, or studies, what he wants to learn and occupy his time with. So all of those storylines kind of coincide with what I visually see when I see myself kind of looking more mature. And I don't know if I'm taller, but I feel like it looks like I'm taller in this episode than I was in previous episodes. Mm-hmm. And maybe closer to my final height that I'm going to be at. So I just see a lot of growth in myself in this particular episode, and it was really congruent with the storyline.
Yeah, that's a really good point about that. You just happen to, in this strange way, look like you're just making that shift from child to young man at the same time as you are making that switch in the storyline. I mean, this is when you've made your first kind of adult decision as to what you want to do with your life, or that new path. And before that, you were kind of taking the path of Starfleet, as we've discussed with Robert Hewitt Wolf and Ira Stephen Bear. And this was when they decided that your character would make that right turn and go in a totally different direction.
Yeah, and he gave us a lot of background on why he wanted to do that, because it was personally something that was
right.
He experienced growing up as a a son of a military father. So we got to see that, but we saw so much other things. I mean, really, what is great about this episode is that it isolates the father son away from the ship, away from the other characters, away from other kind of distractions, and really puts them in a one-on-one kind of, let's deal with this father-son issue. Let's handle this together. Let's experience this moment. And it just reminds me now, as a father, I have these same kinds of moments with my daughter where it's the two of us doing something, and I'm enjoying it, but soon there will be a choice for her to not participate, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right now we're at a stage where
Tough.
It's tough. You don't want to eat that. That's tough. I guess you're not going to eat. Or if you don't want to go there, then you can wait in the car. But we're going there. But eventually, there'll come a time when she'll have decisions to make, whether she wants to hang out with her friends or go do something else, and then there won't be so much of a moment of being able to just hang out with her whenever I want. So this is that kind of a moment. You see, Sisko is disappointed that Jake is turning him down initially. He wants to have this moment. He wants to spend time with him. And then Jake eventually does come around and see the value in it. And I think that's one of the great things about it. And then there's so much other small symbolism that they actually include. You see Sisko, for example, for this first time having a goatee, right?
This was also part of the change in characters between the two of you. And yeah, this kind of spoke to what this episode really stood for, which was more than just these little stories, but this is the change in right now. These few episodes, we're seeing change in all of the characters. We're seeing a change in the storylines. We're seeing a change in what's happening. And that's another one, which is Sisko's goatee coincides with the beginning of the change in Sisko as a character as well. It's kind of changing his physical appearance to match the type of character he's becoming as well. At least that's how I took it.
Yeah, and I think that in this particular case, the title of the episode is perfectly suited because it is called Explorers. And in this particular episode, you see Sisko exploring a new look with the goatee, right? Hey, what do you think? How do you like it?
Right.
So he's starting to explore. Jake is exploring himself and his creativity and his writing and
His future.
his future. And he's offering an even further exploration into this woman that he has pegged out for his dad, right? He picked out for his dad, this freighter captain. So he's asking his dad to explore that option and explore where that could take him. So I feel like Explorers is really just like it's suited for this episode title.
Absolutely. And not to mention that they were actually physically out exploring, as well,
right.
But that's more on the nose. This was the things you're talking about, the things that really add depth to that title. And Star Trek has always been really good about titles that work not just with one thing, but with the theme of multiple things within an episode. And just real quick before I move on to that next broader point, I did want to say that when Sisko tells Jake, well, if you can't go, you can't go. I almost felt like there was subtle wording in there, kind of reminding Jake that he can go. He's like, well, oh, your girlfriend's, oh, well, if you can't go, you can't. It was almost like a subtle, almost like a passive way of saying, oh, it's not like you have a job or,
right.
Or any, it's because I guess, well, if you can't go, I don't know if that's how they meant it, but that's how I took it. When he said that, he was graciously saying, well, obviously you can't go then, I just built this thing, once in a lifetime thing. No big deal,
Yeah, just built it from scratch with a bunch of
for 3
materials
weeks.
laying around for 3 weeks, handmade and everything. But It's not a big deal if you don't want to spend 3 days with your dad to go.
No, that's fine. Go play Dom Jot with that Bjorn or whatever.
Go play Dom Jot.
But the broader point I had about this episode, it's a real gem to me, because when I first started watching Star Trek in this series a little later, as a kid or a younger fellow, like, I watched it for the aliens. I watched it for the sci-fi. I watched it for, the Romulans are fighting with the Klingons, and the Klingons are, and then there's this secret assassin, like all the cool, fun, interesting things. But that's what I got out of it. That's what I enjoyed. That's what, I got everything I wanted in that regard. But when I rewatch it now, what I'm really liking, because those elements got me to fall in love with the characters, because I'm watching these cool stories and I'm falling in love with the characters within those stories. Now that I'm rewatching it, I'm finding that these kind of episodes are the ones I appreciate more, because they're really only about the characters. Nothing happened in this episode, and I loved it, because it was just about nothing happened. Like, there was no, it was just, but it was great because we just got to learn about the characters. There were moments for the characters and points in time that you look back at, as moments that changed, something in our lives or whatever, and that's why this was such a gem to me, along with others, because it really gave me more depth on the characters that I love,
Yeah, and that depth for me, when I'm watching it, I'm thinking of, okay, so Starfleet is basically, it's a lifestyle, but it's really a job, right?
Yeah.
It's like so when they're on the bridge, they're at work. They have a mission to accomplish. They have protocols. They have orders. They're at work essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get paid for all intents and purposes. So they're at work, and what we get to see when they're doing these, battles, and they're in the middle of these wars, that's them in their work space, in their work zone.
Right.
And one thing that I enjoy about seeing episodes like this is seeing them outside of their work zone, still in the same circumstance of being in a space station in 400 years from now, but still, now this is your non-work self. This is your off-work version of yourself. And we got that with O'Brien and Bashir. A lot of them just, they're
getting drunk.
A lot of them getting drunk. Right? And so that's them not at work. And then Sisko, is always having to solve problems and walk around and give orders and, and take inventory of things. But this time he's like, you see him doing his own thing. It's like your dad working on the Chevy in the garage, doing some mechanical work on some car or motorcycle in the garage. That's like his time, right?
Right.
Like he goes to work all week, but now he wants to work on this engine or whatever it is. And so to me, this was Sisko doing his own, like, working on the car garage moment, and finding the time to bond with his son at the same time. So I really like the stepping outside of your work persona and getting into your usual self.
Right. And the reason that was so entertaining and interesting, all the kudos goes to the writers and the actors for creating characters that we care about, to where nothing really needs to happen outside in the big world of the Federation, the Dominion, and all that stuff, for us to be really interested in what's going on the inside, just from character to character, just what they want to do with their lives, with their relationships, with father and son building something together, making jokes with each other, And by the way, when Jake was gonna fix him up with the freighter captain, I had my finger on the trigger. I was like, "Is this Cassidy Yates' first NAM? Is this a non-appearance mention for her?" But nope, they didn't. They didn't say the name, so it doesn't. So I pulled my finger. I was like, "All right, but I'm ready if you say the name." If he goes, I wasn't sure. I was like, "Is he gonna be like, okay, fine, what's her name?" But he didn't ask that. And then I thought, I wonder if the writers didn't even have a name yet for her. They just wrote it next week.
Interesting, because her name was changed. So
really,
it was a different name beforehand. Right. And I think Penny came to the set and didn't want that name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing they didn't name her yet, because she would have been committed to it.
Yeah, because then they'd have some splaining to do.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they did. They almost gave her a Nam, and I actually wrote Morton down as a Nam before he was revealed to be in the episode.
Yeah,
later on.
yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, "Oh, he's in this one."
Yakking it up as he always does, chattering away.
Well, it's funny because Morn, it's such a play on, right? Cheers.
I always
Norm.
thought so. Yeah, I thought that was deliberate. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. But they always, when they're mentioning Morn, they always say Morn said.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing. It's always Morn said this, Morn said that, Morn said you know this. So as soon as they came in with Morn said, I was like, all right, he's not going to be in this episode. It's just, a non-appearance mention. But sure enough, they actually came back around to him, which I liked.
Yeah, lots of great stuff to talk about with this episode. We've got a few minutes before we take our quick break, but I do want to mention the funniest moment in 3 seasons to me. I actually had to pause it, not pause it, but to pause it, because I was laughing and I had to get up, and I even applauded. I think I was ridiculous. I was embarrassing myself.
Okay. Was there a sofa?
What it was when at the beginning when Lita, the first appearance for Lita, Chase Masterson, our good friend, and thank goodness that they used her for more than just one episode. When she comes over and she talks to Julian, and then Dax shows up, being the cock blocker that she is, and she's like, "Oh, hey, blah 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 blah," she's jumping on him about being ridiculous or whatever, and he says, "Oh, I've got that thing that whatever that you wanted. I've got that early. What the heck was it? It was anyway, I don't remember what it was.
I remember.
I've got that something report that you asked for, something, and he holds it over for her, and it says "Go away" in all capital letters. That's just, I forgot. I'm like, that is a good start. I mean, Star Trek doesn't usually go into that kind of humor. It almost seems like kind of bro-ish humor or college humor kind of thing. But that was funny. That got a round of applause from me because
I missed that moment. That's funny. So what you stood up and clapped for, I didn't even see.
It was so funny.
I heard that this exchange. I just didn't read what was on the paper. Is that what it says?
Yeah, he held the pad to her. He says, "Oh, I've got that report, blah 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 blah." And she says, "Oh, really?" And he types something on it and he hands it to her, and it's like it shows that all it says, the whole thing is blank, just capital letters says "Go away." She goes, and that's why she goes, "Oh, okay. I've got a thing to get to over here."
Oh, I missed that. So that is classic. Yeah, that
was solid.
That's solid. Yeah. He was totally. He's like, I have a cough too.
Yeah.
He's so cheesy when he starts coming on.
Dude,
to girls.
That was the worst. Star Trek can be super funny, and that whole opening scene was brilliant. She's like, "Oh, I've been meaning to see you. I've had a cough," and he puts his hand on her back. "Cough for me." And she does, and she goes, "Is it serious, doctor?" I'm like, "Oh my God, you guys need a room or what?" Calm down. And he says, "No, but I need you to start treatment immediately." I'm starting to get a little cough myself. We should drink our toddies together.
Oh, yeah. Good thing they saved all the cheese for Bashir. He got all the cheese.
They should make a cheese called Bashir cheese, like Swiss cheese and cheddar cheese. And Bashir cheese is kind of it's kind of arrogant, but you kind of like it anyway.
It's good looking. It just talks bad. But no, did you see that also there was a moment where Sisko's building the sail ship behind you, and he's wearing his COVID mask. Did you see him?
Yeah. Well, good, and that's a good message to make. He's always very responsible when it comes to those kinds of situations.
No, when I saw
them.
that shield, when they saw the shield, I was like, oh, that's that was a COVID mask way before there was COVID. That's
I
great.
just
No,
heard Aaron's voice go, "Thank you for mentioning the shield."
oh gosh, not the shield.
So we do have to jump to our break real quick. We're going to take that break. When we come back, we're going to go over very quickly like our trivioids, and then we're going to talk about Sisko and his shield and Aaron and some really cool character arcs. It was a great episode to talk about. We'll see you in like half a second on the seventh rule.